Hello, welcome back to another episode of Why Are Comic Books So Addictive? Yes, they are. And because of that, I constantly find myself looking back at history and trying to find out neat little things about the hobby that I love so much. One of the things that I have been researching for quite some time and still not have the answer is, when is it that the hobby anointed the term golden age or silver age or bronze to the many period of books that we all enjoy? When was it? When is it become something in the popular culture to coin the term golden age or silver age? The search continued, but through those searches over the past few months and weeks or years, I found something interesting that I don't think many people know or talk about. Here's my first prize guide, one of my very loved prized possession. When I saw the auction last month on Heritage, you see the price? Holy cow! I'm almost tempted to go and slap this copy. Mine is probably 8.5-ish, but if somebody's willing to pay 9K for that copy, dang, I take 3K, maybe. It's not an easy item to find, so I'm just joking about willing to part with this copy. What is neat about this copy is, even though it's the very first price guide, there's not a whole lot of articles or dealer's opinion yet as the future price guide have, but it does have some write-up about the hobby, some write-ups. And one of the cool things that I noticed, I read this before, okay, I have went through this before and somehow I missed it the first or second time, but lately when I pulled it up again to give it a read through, I found something interesting. The history of comic fandom. Perhaps I will photocopy this page one of these days and put a link to them so that people can download and read these articles themselves, but I can read you a quick excerpt. The second comics fan movement began in 1960. It was largely a response to the second heroic age of comics. Most fan historians date the second historic age from the appearance of the new Flash, and then it went on much more. So they're talking about the first heroic age, and they're talking about, in this price guide, about a second heroic age starting in the 1960s. So prior to the term golden age and silver age, there are terms such as the first heroic age and the second heroic age. I didn't know that, even though I had this for a few years. I'm glad I pulled out and flipping through it again and to see that excerpt. Now what's neat is that I have an item in my fanzine box. I have a box of just fanzine stuff that are not I didn't think they are worth a whole lot of stuff, things that I have laying around that I bought over the past many years and decades that I thought was neat at the time, but sometimes forgotten, and I'm glad I didn't throw it out, was this one here. Check this out. This is a pamphlet, I don't know what you call this, a fanzine, a guide, a booklet, but it came out in 1969. It came out before the first price guide by Jerry Bale himself, the person that also worked on the first price guide. Jerry Bale right there, 1969, and right there, the first heroic age collector's guide. And in here, you know, you have basically a catalog of all the characters, all the appearances, all the issues. It's, you know, for what it was in 1969, it was done, you know, I'm sure if you flip through this now, you'll be like, wow, it's so crude, you know. You understand, this is before the age of computers, so a lot of this was typed and put together, so it's crude. But what's neat is, you see this? Yes, perhaps this could be Rick Buckler's first published work. For those that are fan or know of Rick Buckler, he didn't start to work and publish his work in Marvel Comics until a few years later. So here is his work on the front and back covers, okay, by Rick Buckler in 1969. So perhaps this is his first published work. Just another neat little item. But in here is a catalog of all the issues and where all the characters appear, which I think was neat. First heroic age. So now, for those that have never heard of, and certainly I had this magazine for a long time, but it only recently that I said, hey, I had the first mention of the term first heroic age that I know of. I'm sure if you are a collector back in 1969, I'm sure this term may be something that you are familiar with. If so, let me know. I'm just curious to see, you know, what the hobby think about this stuff back then. You know, it's one of the many little things that I find enjoyable about the hobby. It's not about the hot books, the valuation of certain books, but through the history of the hobby, I love to see how little things develop. But for now, that's all I have as far as my research on how Golden Age or Silver Age was coined. Not yet. I have not found the answers yet. But for now, I think we all learned something new. At least I did, about the first and the forgotten second heroic age of hero. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.